Oh, sorry, Mike. I forgot to tell you to start. I apologize.
Mr. Rabia,
I'm here.
Ms. Luckett,
I'm here.
Mr. Palladino,
Here.
Mr. Natali,
Here.
Mr. Stanton.
Here. Please note that tonight's meeting is being simulcast on YouTube and is also being recorded. I'd like to present some housekeeping rules to ensure that this meeting goes smoothly. Please make all efforts to cut down on background noise or mute yourself, including cell phones and pagers. Please allow everyone ample time to finish speaking. And please announce your name prior to speaking to assist with following the flow of conversation. As you guys probably noted from the last meeting, I make no excuses for my dog. He may act up during the meeting. We'll see how that goes. But if everyone would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Has everyone read the minutes of the April 5th, 2021 meeting?
Yes.
Are there any corrections? There being none, do I have a motion to approve?
Gary Natali, motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Gary Palladino, second.
Thank you. Ms. August, if you would please call the roll.
Got to stay unmuted. Mr. Rabia,
Yes, to the motion.
Ms. Luckett,
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Palladino,
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Natali,
Yes to the motion.
and Mr. Stanton.
Yes to the motion. The Cicero Town Board acknowledges the importance of full public participation at all public meetings, and therefore we have afforded the opportunity for town residents to submit public comments for entry into the record with advance notice given prior to this meeting. At this time, I will make a motion that all actions taken tonight are type 2 actions and have a negative impact that is no impact on the environment unless otherwise indicated. Do I have a second?
Gary Natali, yes to the motion. Second the motion.
Ms. August, please call the roll.
Mr. Rabia,
Yes to the motion.
Ms. Luckett,
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Palladino,
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Natali,
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes to the motion. We have proof that all items on tonight's agenda have been advertised as directed by law. I will briefly review the process for tonight's meeting for the benefit of those present that have not been before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Each applicant will have an opportunity to describe their project. The board will then ask questions. I will then open a public hearing where people will be able to speak for or against the proposed variance. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to respond to public input and provide additional information. Board members will be provided an opportunity to question the applicant again. The board will openly discuss amongst ourselves the 5 factors that contribute to the final decision. Please note this board does not have a pre-agenda meeting, so there is no prior discussion of cases outside of this meeting. A motion will be made either approving or denying the requested variance, seconded and voted upon. So our first case tonight is Deacon Joseph Lupia, who I see is there. Thank you for attending. Because we deferred this from the last meeting, I thought I would just give a quick recap and then allow Deacon Lupia to provide any additional information that he has. We did at the previous meeting, we asked for Deacon Lupia to provide proof of legal authority to act on behalf of the church. That proof was received and is on file. We also had Deacon Lupia present his project, and the proposals remained unchanged based on the additional information that he has submitted. So at our last meeting, we also reviewed the county planning board's concerns, with which Deacon Lupia addressed and his willingness to comply with, specifically separating the shared sewer system and an agreement for shared use of the driveway. As also mentioned at the last meeting, the full text of these conditions should be added to any variance granted by the board if a variance is granted. Following on the planning board's observations at our last meeting, we also asked Deacon Lupia to look into combining the new lot, which would contain only the church building, with one of the other properties owned by the church, so the proposed variance could be eliminated. This would be accomplished either by subdividing and recombining another property, or simply combining the proposed lot 2 with the parish center hall property, which is purportedly 4.12 acres. Since then, Deacon Lupia has submitted a letter dated April 19th, 2021, excuse me, stating the church is currently not financially viable and that a solution which links the church lot to the parish center property would make future sale of the church problematic. It also claims that conveying 18,000 square feet of the parish center property would then make the parish center property non-conforming. However, with the parish center property at 4.12 acres, this concern appears not to be an issue. I believe that the actual issue is that the parish center can only be accessed from the church parking lot. The parish center is too close to the church to make a donation of property from the parish center to the church property in a sensible fashion. Deacon Lupia, is that an accurate summary? And do you have anything further to add based on the letter you submitted?
That's a very good summary. I did go back and speak to the pastor, and the pastor has indicated also that it's just not feasible to add part of the parish center lot to the church lot. Although we're not selling the church at this time, the church is not viable. We've been losing a lot of money. The diocese has declared the church is non-viable. And that means that there may down the road be a sale of that church. And we just don't want to reconfigure the lots in a manner that would cause a problem in the sale of the church lot if and when that were to come about. So we are respectfully requesting that based upon what we have here, that you grant a variance for the 1.6 acres on the church lot so that the rectory may be sold and put back on the tax rolls, candidly.
Thank you. At this time, I will open the floor for questions and comments from the board.
Oh, I think we pretty much covered it between last meeting and the follow-up letter that we received on what, April 13th. So, I mean, this is Gary Palladino, and I have no further questions.
Is that the consensus of the rest of the board?
Yes, Gary Natale, no further questions.
Chuck, it's Mark. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Luckett?
Nothing further for me.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Because we did never open the public hearing, I will, at this time, open the public hearing. Mr. Kerwin, the one email that caused the whole question of authority, does that need to be entered into the record?
Put it in the record because it was addressed by a subsequent letter, right?
Yes. So, but it does not need to be a public comment.
No.
Okay. So, Mr. Procopio, has anyone else submitted comment letters for the project?
No, we have not received anything further.
Perfect. So at this time, I will close the public hearing. There being no other further questions from the board, would anyone like to review the 5 factors and make a motion?
This is Gary Palladino. I'll take this one.
All right.
All right. Factor 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created. I answered that as no. The reduction in the 2 requested variances are minimal to me, so I don't see where 2.5 feet less in the front and 4/10 of an acre in total lot area would cause any undesirable change or detriment to the nearby properties in the neighborhood.
I agree.
Miss August, you're on mute again.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Mr. Rabia, do you agree?
I do, I agree.
Ms. Luckett?
Yes, I agree.
Mr. Palladino?
Yes.
Of course you agree. Mr. Natale? Mr.
Big
Natale
upon my split
Agree.
personality.
and Mr. Stanton.
I agree, and I do want to make one note, though, is I believe we determined at the last meeting that the front yard variance was not required because this is an existing non-conforming lot, and we are literally just addressing the subdivision piece of it.
Okay, so we'll strike the 2.5 feet from the front.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, the second factor is whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Again, I answered that question as no and no, because we have discussed at some length taking all the adjoining land and re-subdividing the parcels. But with the future of the church and the rec center unknown, and as explained in the letter of April 13th from the bishop of the diocese, that this would basically just be kicking a can down.
Mr. Rabia, do you agree?
I don't, but I'm satisfied with the documentation that the applicants provided as to why, why they want to go down the path they want to go down.
So is that a no?
Yeah, I don't agree, but
Okay.
I understand what they're doing. So
Okay. Ms. Luckett,
Agreed.
Mr. Palladino, or Mr. Stanton?
Oh, you
Sorry.
missed Mr. Natale. Should probably-
Mr. Natale agrees.
Okay. And Mr. Stanton?
I would disagree, but just like Mr. Robbie, I believe there are some mitigating factors here, and that this would, if we pushed in one direction, it would literally just be postponing the problem to a future date.
All right, factor 3, question whether the requested area variance is substantial. I answered that as yes. They're requesting approximately a 20% variance for the total lot area, and I think that is substantial.
Okay. Mr. Rabia,
I agree.
Ms. Luckett,
I agree.
Mr. Natale,
I agree.
Mr. Stanton?
I agree, but I would also like to add on this one that I believe we have tried a number of options to get this up to the required 2 acres, and it just doesn't seem feasible with the configuration of the 2 adjacent properties.
Okay. Fourth factor is whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. I answer that as no. I don't see how it possibly could. There hasn't been any real change or changes to the existing buildings and the property.
Mr. Rabia,
I agree.
Ms. Luckett,
I agree.
Mr. Natale,
I agree.
and Mr. Stanton?
I agree.
And the last one is whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Yes, definitely. However, that does not in itself preclude the granting of these variances, of this variance.
Mr. Rabia,
I agree.
Ms. Luckett,
I agree.
Mr. Natale,
I agree.
Mr. Stanton?
I agree.
Okay, So with those 5 factors being discussed, I'd like to make a motion on behalf of Deacon Joseph Lupia to approve the area variance requested for the property located on 7820 Route 298, Bridgeport, New York. And the area variance being requested is for 1.6 acre lot, where a minimum of a 2 acre lot is required in an R15 non-residential use.
Before we get a second, I believe if we can all agree to amend this with the 2 conditions of the Onondaga County Planning Board, namely to allow the shared sewer system to continue. Ownership of the proposed lots must be held by the same entity, and a deed restriction must also be filed stating that neither of the lots can be sold unless both lots are sold to the same entity until such a time as the sewer connections are separated. And the second being, per the New York State Department of Transportation, the municipality is advised to ensure appropriate access agreements are in place for any shared driveways on Route 298. If everyone agrees with that, I will second. And Ms. August, if you'd call the roll.
Mr. Rabia,
Yes to the motion.
Ms. Luckett,
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Palladino,
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Natali,
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes to the motion. Congratulations, Deacon Lupia, motion's passed.
Thank you very much for your help. And the conditions, we will deal with them immediately. We're putting a new sewer line and water line in momentarily.
Great, thank you very much.
So thank you very much for all of your help.
You're welcome. Is there any other business before the board? So, folks, don't forget that we did, I did send out that email, just an informal poll about potentially meeting in person again and what conditions may be attached to that. I know most of you have replied, just if you haven't, please do. I would like to get back to Supervisor Meyer with some kind of consensus. And there's no promises, but something may be in the works to get us all back together live again. And then also, thank you, Ms. Luckett, for passing on your training for this year. Please don't forget to pass on your training. There was a form that was provided last year or the year before. If you can't remember where it is, I will send it to you again. Just let me know.
You're asking me to send in something?
No, you already did. I appreciate you passed on.
It's giving you credit.
Yes.
I thought he was telling me to fill some form out.
Absolutely not. You did exactly what you were supposed to do, which was pass on your training requirements. So
Hey, Mark,
you did good.
do you think Chuck's talking about us?
I feel like it, but I feel like I sent an email, so now I got to go back and look. He's
I might be
piqued
talking
my
about myself,
curiosity.
too. So,
Oh, I might not be able to sleep tonight.
somehow I don't believe that, Mr. Palladino. So there being no other business for the board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I second it. It's Mark.
All right, Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes